Well, joining me now live from New York is Michael Zeldin, CNN legal analyst and former special assistant to Robert Mueller at the Department of Justice. Great to have you with us. So much hype around this memo and obviously the fears that Trump is using it to discredit the Russian investigation. We saw that tweet this morning from the president saying that it proves there is no collusion and that he has been cleared. Does it?
Well, I'm not sure what he read, but nothing that I read addresses the question of whether he and his campaign colluded with Russians or Russian surrogates in the 2016 election. What we learned from the Nunes memo was that the FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court, issued a warrant against Carter Page, a former member of the Trump foreign policy team, because they believed that he was acting as an agent for the Russians. Carter Page has been known to the FBI since 2013, when they warned him that the Russians were trying to make him one of their assets and told him to be careful. Apparently, he didn't heed their warning, and in 2016, they received information that he may be acting in that capacity, and they were able to convince the court with a showing of probable cause that Carter Page was acting in that capacity, and they started listening in or monitoring his communications. That's what we learned yesterday. We learned, in addition, that initial warrant was renewed 3 times by the same court, and when a warrant is renewed, you have to present to the court additional evidence. It can't be the initial evidence, but it has to be additional evidence, which meant that the warrant they allowed to have the initial interceptions with was bearing fruit. That means they were getting additional new information that allowed them to keep extending after 90 days, after 90 days, after 90 days. So that's what we learned yesterday. We didn't learn anything about President Trump
yep.
and his, you get all these investigations confused here in America, that President Trump and collusion had nothing to really do with this, notwithstanding their efforts to make it appear that way.
And of course the fear is, Michael, that President Trump would use this to potentially fire his Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, or even the special counsel investigator, Robert Mueller. He was asked about it yesterday, and he said to reporters, "You figure it out." It certainly doesn't sound like an endorsement when he was asked about whether he would fire the Deputy Attorney General.
That's correct, but we have to keep in mind that this president has also said about his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, multiple times that he's been disappointed in him. If he knew that he was going to recuse himself, he would have never hired him. So he has a way of publicly belittling people. Sometimes he acts on that. Sometimes he just seemingly likes to belittle and then moves on. I think that he realizes that firing Rosenstein could trigger a series of events that would be very dangerous for his presidency. Because were Rosenstein to be fired without cause, because there is no cause here, the role that Rosenstein played in this case so far, according to this memorandum that was released yesterday, was that this FISA application, the warrant that we're talking about with Carter Page, which was renewed 3 times, Rosenstein signed off on one of the renewals. That's his sole role in this memorandum. So if he were to be fired over that, doing his job effectively, then I think you could see the possibility of the FBI director quitting in protest over that. And then you have, you know, a Richard Nixon-like Saturday Night Massacre where Nixon fired all the people that were investigating him, which ultimately led to appointment of a new counsel that sought articles of impeachment against him. So it's very dangerous, but this president doesn't act in a coherent way all the time.
Yeah, to say the least. It's a slippery slope. Michael Zeldin, good to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.